here at the Pierce County Aging and Disabilities Resource Center. And we have a variety of talks we've been giving during this long-term care aging and care planning series with our partners here at East Pierce Fire and Rescue. So those are all available as they are done once a month on the East Pierce Fire and Rescue website. As part of what I do at the county education and outreach, we do talk about upcoming events. So you can be aware of other areas of interest for older adults. We've got a lot of them coming up in September, so let me highlight those right away. We've got an Alzheimer's conference. We have a Powerful Tools for Caregivers class, and we've got our fall prevention event. So let me start with Powerful Tools for Caregivers. This class will be held at Multicare Good Samaritan Older Adult Services in Puyallup. It's 6 weeks on Tuesdays from noon to 1:30, starting on September 10th. And this is a class limited to 15 participants for folks who can learn more about how to be a healthy and well caregiver. And we ask that you do commit to attending all 6 classes if you attend. So this is the flyer. All the information is on our Pierce County Aging and Disabilities Resources homepage. And all that information will be at the end of the presentation. Our website should be on there. Also, we've got upcoming our Alzheimer's conference. This is going to be on Saturday, September 21st. This conference is an all-day conference, which will feature beverages and snacks in the morning and a free lunch. Our keynote speaker is going to be Laura Wayman, who's known as the Dementia Whisperer. She talks a lot about caregiving, how to be a better caregiver, how to consider what the person suffering from dementia is experiencing in their life, so you can understand how to take care of them better. We'll also have some classes on caregiver self-care, balancing care with peace of mind, and I'll be on an expert panel talking about Medicaid services. We'll also be talking about VA aid and attendance services and elder law. So this is one that you do have to register in advance, the same with the Powerful Tools class. Again, you can go to our ADRC homepage, and ADRC stands for Aging and Disabilities Resource Center, and get registered for that. Or for either class, you can call our phone number 253-798-4600 to get registered. Finally, we'll be doing a Fall Prevention Awareness Day event Friday, September 25th at actually, it's Wednesday, September 25th, I think. This is wrong. It's Wednesday, September 25th. So feel free to come out for that event, 11:30 to 1:30 at Gordon Family YMCA. I don't know how that's got a misprint on there. And you don't have to be a member of the YMCA to attend, but it is on September 25th at 11:30. So we'd love to see you out for that event as well. I think we had it on a Friday last year. Maybe that's why this is wrong. But you don't have to register in advance. Just show up Wednesday, September 25th at Gordon Family YMCA. Okay, so we're going to talk on the talk today a little bit about, doesn't look like it wants to move now. It was moving. So we're going to see if we can get the slides to move. Yeah, it moved before. Should I move it on there? It worked before I tried it. So strange. Right. Okay, we're trying to check on the slides here, so I appreciate your patience there. Oh, there it goes. Okay, great. Okay, so when we're talking today, first thing we're going to talk about is planning safety at home. Yeah. We're also going to take a quiz about testing our skills with regards to avoiding scams and fraud, talking a little bit about who's the targets and why, the importance of protecting your personal information, understanding how crooks approach you based on opportunity, availability, and response, common methods that the scammers use. We'll talk a little bit about sweetheart scams and how those work, and online scams, understanding and avoiding them, and how to recover if you do become a victim of a scam or fraud. So planning safety at home. We talk about this a lot now just because of the preponderance of criminal elements that are in the community at any given time. We see it when we drive around town. We see boarded up storefronts. We see smashed out car windows, things like that. There's just a lot of daily activity related to crime. So we always want to talk a little bit about safety at home because even a safe home is a further defense against scams and fraud. It's not unusual someone breaks into your home, steals documents or things, and uses those to set up an identity theft. So we're always thinking at home safety. If you live in your own home, or even if you live in an apartment, make sure you have some good exterior lighting, front porch, back porch, patio, whatever the case might be. Exterior lighting is just basically a deterrent on criminals coming up to your place where you live. Also, make sure you lock doors and windows. I know this is difficult in the summer months. People want to keep windows open. Make sure you close those overnight, or at least have those barriers put in the windowsills so that the window can't open more than a few inches, or have a block of some kind put in there. Make sure you have a peephole in your door or a Ring doorbell. We have a Ring doorbell at our house, which is really nice because it alerts us if anyone's approaching the porch, and it gives us a camera view of who's on the porch. Plus, we can communicate with them as well. This is really good because we do a lot of package delivery at our house, and we live on a busy street. So we're always wanting to know when the packages have been delivered so we can pick them up right away, or tell a neighbor to pick them up if we're not at home. Burglar, smoke, and carbon monoxide alarms. Those are just things we recommend, of course, as does East Pierce Fire and Rescue. Motor vehicle theft is actually getting better, but it's still terrible. Prior to COVID, we were seeing about 300 cars a day, cars and trucks a day being stolen countywide. It went up as high as 900, not 300 a day, 300 a month, excuse me. It went up as high as 900 a month. We're down now to 393 as of April of 2024. That's the last month I can find. But even so, even more cars get windows smashed out and stuff grabbed out of the cars. So don't use your car as a storage for anything that's of value. Make sure you don't have any identifying documents in there. People like to keep their registration and insurance in there. Have it hidden away under a floor mat or in a pocket that's not visible, not right in the glove box if possible. And make sure to remove your garage door opener from your vehicle, especially if you're in a place for an extended period of time. I'm thinking about the Puyallup Fair coming up. We did have a report from a woman a couple of years ago. She went to the fair, she took her grandkids, they got there early, stayed all day, stayed for lunch, stayed for dinner, went back out to her car, window was smashed, someone grabbed her garage door opener, went to her house and burglarized her house, okay? So keep that in mind. Extended periods of time, your car is not going to be in use. It's going to be parked somewhere in a public lot. Make sure you grab that garage door opener. Lock your car doors, close your windows. Don't leave anything of value in there. Never leave the motor running unless you are locked in the car, okay? You want to make sure, even quickly running in somewhere, that car's not got its motor running. And we see it on the news all the time. Someone just pulls up to their apartment, runs in to grab a package, or comes out to their car, forgets something, runs back in. People are watching and they steal your car. This also holds true if you're on the road. Make sure you stay in your car with the motor running if someone bumps into you. It's always our reflex to stop the car, get out, see what happened, stay in the car. Okay, there's having these bump and steal activities going on where they'll bump you from behind just so you'll get out of the car, see what's going on, then they'll steal your car. And again, the motor vehicle theft issue leads to a lot of this, because these guys are driving stolen cars. They don't care what happens to the car they're driving in because it's stolen. And don't step out of your car at the scene of an accident unless you must do so for safety. Stay in the car, call a friend, call 911. Make sure a friend always knows where you are if you're out on the road, a friend or neighbor, family member, because again, you don't want to be in a situation where someone's caused that accident to get you out of the car, knock you down, steal your wallet, steal your purse, and steal your car. Okay, so we do have a quiz in the handout about identity theft, scams, and fraud and things like that. It's a good way to quiz yourself for whether you're taking the precautions you need to do to avoid being a victim. It ranges from scoring yourself at a 1, I never do this, to scoring yourself to a 5, I always do this. The higher your score when you go through the quiz, the fewer your opportunities are providing for identity theft to steal key pieces of information or for evidence of identity theft to go unnoticed. So you can go through the quiz on your own. We're not going to go through every aspect of it, but I am going to highlight a couple of things on there. So number 1, You want to think about what information you're saving to show the purchases and transactions you've made with your bank and your credit cards as well, okay? So you want to save those receipts somewhere so you can check them against your bill that comes in every month. You want to reconcile the two. I just have a box by my bed, dump them in there before I go to bed at night from my wallet or purse, wife's purse, whatever the case might be. Sensitive personal information, you want to destroy it. You don't want to just send it out into your recycle can. So you want to have a cross-cut shredder at home. A cross-cut shreds into strips and shreds it again into little diamonds or squares. That way it's very difficult, if not impossible, to know what that document information had on it. Other people burn their stuff if it's safe to do so. Again, don't just put it out in the recycle can. Believe it or not, there's crooks that will dig through your recycle can in the middle of the night to see if you put personal information out there. The shredders are cheap. You can get them at Target or Big Lots or Walmart for probably $25, $30. Limiting access to your personal information. This is very important in all ways, especially when it comes to giving out dates of birth, bank account numbers, credit card numbers, social security numbers, all that stuff. But I also want to focus on this one on number 9 about outgoing mail, okay? Many of us got the habit growing up where we'll put outgoing mail on your mailbox at home, clip it there so the mailman could pick it up. We strongly recommend you don't do that. There's mail theft, there's package theft that goes on constantly. There's crooks that will follow delivery trucks around and just go and grab stuff off your porch. There's crooks that will follow mail trucks around and do the same thing. So want to make sure if you've got a mailbox that sits at your house far away from your visibility and you're not home during the day, make sure it's a secure box with locking feature. If you're in a neighborhood situation, you might want to talk to the postal office to see if you can set up a bank of secure mailboxes. But the important thing on number 9 here is about outgoing mail at the post office. I make sure when I'm mailing letters, I go into the post office and mail it in the post office building itself. That can be a bit of a hassle if you don't have one close by. The blue mailboxes that are out on the streets, I don't trust as being secure anymore. And let me tell you why. Where I live in North Tacoma, there's a little neighborhood area called the Proctor neighborhood. Lots of cool shops and restaurants there, post office, bank. That post office is considered a pretty safe location day to day. Even so, when they put a blue mailbox out in front of that post office, the whole box has been stolen multiple times. And they keep trying to secure it more, better concrete, better moorings. Once a guy just backed up his truck to it, put a chain around it and pulled it up straight off the moorings, okay? So they're stealing the whole box in some situations. That's why I recommend you don't mail from the blue boxes. Another example, there was a blue box at the bottom of the hill from where I drive on the way to work in what's known as the Old Town area, the Spar restaurants there. It's near the waterway there. And that box disappeared one day. And so I asked the coffee shop, what happened to that box? And they said, well, what happened is every day we were calling the post office because a guy would drive up in his car right before the pickup at that box. He would shove what looked like a fishing pole into the box and was stealing mail out of the box every day, basically. So finally, after 2 months worth of complaints, the post office came and removed that blue box. So they do have ways to get into those boxes where your mail, if it's sitting in there, is not secure. So again, mail from inside the post office building. Another areas of limiting access, driver's license numbers, social security numbers. Avoid putting those on your personal checks that you write. I write checks still. My wife does online banking. It's a personal preference. But just be advised that check, when you hand it to someone, has all of your banking information on there. It's got your bank account number. It's got the bank routing number. It's got your name, your signature on there, all of that. So they do have what are known as bleaching machines, where if they've got a copy of your check, or I mean, the check that you've written, they could bleach out all the ink and just use it. And there's a lot of check fraud that goes on. It's hard for the banks to pick up on that because signatures anymore really aren't verifiable. So I would advise that be very careful about who you're giving checks to, unless it's to pay regular bills to known entities. Even paying a check, even to some sort of a landscaper, plumber, I'm not knocking them as a profession. Just be careful with that. You might want to pay cash, use a money order, pay credit card, whatever the case might be, because those checks are known to have been handed off to people and then someone else uses them to forge checks. Okay. Um, and then finally, we're talking a little bit about general security consciousness here on number 20, not leaving your wallet or purse unattended. I'm thinking of supermarkets and things like that, making sure your purse is zipped shut, your wallet, if it's in your back pocket, is buttoned shut or it's zipped shut, anything like that. I would especially advise folks, especially the women, if they're going out to their cars in public parking lots, it's common you go sit in your car, you put your purse on the passenger side seat, close the door, lock the doors. What happens is sometimes those guys will be following you out to your car, and they're not going to come up to you on the driver's side. They're going to come up on the passenger side to grab your purse. Okay, we've heard that from many different women that happens. The other thing they'll do in a public parking lot is they'll put a Coke bottle or something behind your tire. So when you pull out, it smashes, and they want to do that again. So you'll stop, get out of the car, see what's wrong. They'll knock you over and steal your car. So you got to be thoughtful of all that stuff going on in public parking spots. Okay, so when we move on to thinking about scams and fraud in general, it's always good to normalize the experience. I think we've all gone through it and we think, geez, why did they target me? Well, the 50 years and over age group is one half of all fraud victims overall here in the US, one third of all telemarketing fraud victims. So, right away, my age group is going to be a big bulk of the targeted folks. Okay. Interesting though, 25 years and under age group, next largest group of fraud victims overall. And again, think about the things that group is doing. They're doing a lot of social media. They might have roommates. They share a lot of information. That puts them in a vulnerable state to get their personal information stolen or tracked. Okay. So Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, things like that make young people easy targets for scammers. So for that group, or if you're on any of those social media sites, be very careful about how much information you share on there, especially about your day-to-day activities. You don't want too many people knowing what your daily schedule looks like. What my wife and I do, my wife likes to take pictures if we go out wine tasting, if we go to a specific restaurant, she orders a nice dish. We post those after we're done. So in the evening or the next day, we say, hey, we found a new place for wine tasting, or we went to a wine pairing dinner, or we went to a show down at the Grand Cinema or the Tacoma Musical Playhouse. We post it the next day to say, hey, look what we did, not look what we're doing. And a lot of young people are constantly showing what they're doing at that moment, which puts them vulnerable to people kind of knowing their daily schedule and where the places they go when they're not at home, etc. Any of us could fall victim to a scam. Age alone doesn't make us vulnerable. A lot of very smart people are scammed. We've heard about these investment scams. This Bernie Madoff character a few years ago, he was going after celebrities and a lot of smart people. There was another scam, the Theranos scam. This was a business that this woman, who was basically a pathological narcissist crook, she developed a business where she claimed that she could take like a finger prick sample of blood and from that determine all kinds of diagnostics for you. Now, we know when we go to get our blood taken, they take vials of your blood, right? She claimed with just a finger stick, she could do what the vials of blood were doing. She had some very prominent people involved in investing in her company, celebrities, politicians, military people. They were all taken in by her. It was a complete scam, and she served prison time because of it. So, again, don't feel bad. Even smart people get scammed. If a crook is as bold and as confident as these crooks are, anybody can get scammed. People more isolated are more at risk, and victims, as a result, worry that as an isolated victim, that if they reveal too much, that they might be considered incapable of managing their affairs. That's not true. We want victims to come forward, talk to our office. We can put you in touch with the processes that need to be done to make sure you're not a victim again in the future. Because scam victims are more likely to be targeted for future scams. And the real key here, and we'll emphasize this more, scammers want to force people into making split-second decisions, not allowing them to consider what is happening. So it's all about really someone contacting you and saying, there's a problem you didn't even know about, and I'm the guy to solve it for you. Or you won some money and I'm the guy to deliver it to you. It's one of those two things. It's either problem, I can solve it, or winnings, I can get them for you, okay? Or investment jackpots, and I can get them for you. That's basically what it looks like. So how does the scam or fraud activity result in identity theft? Anytime your personal information is stolen in some manner, your name, your date of birth, social security number, bank account number, that can allow crooks to steal your identity. Usually it's some garden variety scam where they've got your credit card or bank account number and they're using it to buy things and make purchases. Sometimes it's a full-blown identity theft, though. For example, there was this story recently about Graceland, where Elvis Presley used to live. And Lisa Marie, his daughter, is now dead. But apparently some woman had fraudulent documents claiming that before Lisa Marie Presley died, she was her accountant, and that Lisa Marie had taken a loan from her in order to pay some mortgage or debt on Graceland. She had documents that were completely fraudulent. She had never had a relationship with Lisa Marie. She was not an accountant. She forged signatures for Lisa Marie's signatures on there. She forged signatures from the local auditor's office. She forged signatures from a notary. It was all a scam. And basically the scam was she was trying to extort a settlement out of the heirs of the Presley fortune. Otherwise, she was going to take possession of Graceland. And this was in the news. And I remember reading this 6 months ago, thinking, something's not right here. Sure enough, that woman's now been arrested for identity theft. She was forging documents, pretending to be someone she wasn't. She forged Lisa Marie Presley's documents, name on these documents. It was all this very sophisticated scam, fraud, and identity theft. Breaches and hacking of your online usernames, passwords, security verifications can allow crooks to access your data stored on your computers. This is a lot of that we have that happens that is completely out of our control. There was some notice the other day saying that some credit company or something like that with millions and millions of personal records had been hacked, and the hackers had been saying, we're going to reveal this information unless you pay us a ransom of some kind. This is the reality of where we live now. Data of our information is worldwide. So back in the day, think about what your data looked like. Sure, your bank had some of it. Sure, the federal government at the IRS had some of it. But most of it was in a cabinet that you had in your bedroom or your office room at home. I remember when my parents died, I spent literally weeks just going through all the paper, going back decades of all the things they had done over the years, all the financial transactions. It's not like that anymore. I see many seniors now who have no paper trail at home at all because it's all electronic. They pay their bills online. They do electronic bill payments, banking, all that stuff online. And that stuff is vulnerable to attack. So you think of something as simple as your medical records. Back in the day, if someone wanted to grab your medical records, they'd have to break into your doctor's office and pull a paper file out of a cabinet somewhere. Now they can just hack into a system. And it could be a hacker that's nowhere close to where you live. They could be thousands of miles away and you wouldn't even know it. So you got to learn to protect your personal information to the extent you can, and don't stress on the other stuff. I mean, basically, all of us probably have already been hacked or are going to be hacked. And by hacked, I mean someone with access to sophisticated computer knowledge is able to penetrate the security around your data that's held by big organizations like the Veterans Administration, the IRS, Archdiocese of Seattle, US Bank, whoever the case might be, and they get your information. This is why periodically you will get a new credit card in the mail or a letter that says your information was breached. Kaiser Permanente sent us a letter about that. US Bank sent us a letter, and they say, we're sending you this new credit card, or we're advising you to open a new bank account, or whatever the case might be, because these hacks are going on constantly. So why are seniors and disabled people targeted? It comes down to three types of reasons, and they all kind of interlock together. It's easy to remember by OAR: opportunity, availability, and response. So just think OAR. I tried to really boil it down to the basics because the scams all have the same structure. The stories within them can be everything from A to Z, but the structure is always the same. So number one is the opportunity. Crooks know that seniors and disabled adults have reliable sources of income, such as monthly Social Security payments, pension payments, and tax refunds. These payments give the crooks the financial opportunity to commit scams and fraud. So they know that even if you've only got $1,000 a month Social Security, maybe only a few $1,000s in the bank, the crooks know that that money's regular and that money's available to you, okay? That's why they're coming after you. They don't care if you have a lot of money coming in every month or a little. They just want to get as much of it from you as possible, okay? Oftentimes, the crooks will review public government pages, such as real estate records and recorded documents, to learn more about you. So again, this is where the targeting comes, the opportunities there. We have seniors that are falling behind on their property taxes with property values raised like they have. There's crooks that will go through public records and see which seniors have not paid their property taxes. This is public record. And if you right now go on the assessor treasurer site, you can look up your residence and see your tax payment history, okay? Problem is, anybody else could look that up as well. And this is public record. Again, by law, it's required to be public record. The next is availability. So we talked about opportunity. They're targeting you because they know you have some income, some savings in the bank. Here's the availability. The availability is that crooks know most seniors and disabled adults are no longer actively in the workforce, so they're targeting you at home. Staying at home gives the crooks the availability of them for you to contact seniors and disabled adults through phone calls, text messages, US mail, email, and front door visits to your home. So again, this is where the targeting comes in. They don't want to go after someone who has no income, nor do they want to go after someone who's never at home. So they want you because you're going to respond to your phone calls, you're going to respond to a knock on the door, you're going to sort through your mail. Think about people who are much younger than you in your family, like my son and my godchildren. They look at it very differently in terms of communicating by phone. They do a lot of text messaging, periodic phone calls, but the idea that you communicate primarily by phone is kind of a generational thing with our generation. I'm 59 now. And so a lot of younger people don't use their phones in that way. They don't use it to talk. They use it more to text, to share information and photos, to chat on different social media sites. Growing up in my family, we had a kitchen phone and a parent's bedroom phone. And if that phone rang, the whole house knew it and responded, okay? And I remember even now, even a few years back before my dad passed away, that phone ringing was a big deal. I quit calling them for that reason, because they were very limited mobility as they got older, and I didn't want them trying to get to the phone. So I would just stop at their house because they lived close by and talked with them rather than trying to call them on the phone. But that's a generational thing. And I'm sure if you're a senior or you know seniors, all of you are answering your phones, right? Because that's the generation we grew up in. That's the value we grew up in, that if someone's calling you or knocking on your door, that you're supposed to be courteous, polite, and talk to them. Finally, that leads me to response. The crooks know that your generation and other disabled adults are courteous, polite, thoughtful, and willing to provide a generous response to those who make contact with them. So this is where it gets difficult, because this is where I'm telling you to set firm limits and establish those boundaries. And often that means you've got to amp up the aggressive aspect of your personality, which might be a very small part of it, and tell someone, get out of my face, get off my porch, I'm hanging up on you, whatever the case might be. You can't ask them for permission to do these things. You just have to do it. So let me give you an example. The other day, my wife drove up in the driveway. I was out working in the yard. Um, she had taken a friend to a doctor's appointment. The next thing I know, this guy comes around the corner of our house. I don't know if he was laying in wait there because I couldn't see him. Starts talking to my wife in the car. So I walk up. I'm like, what do you want? Oh, I was working next door and I need to find some place to eat. I'm like, okay, well, there's a grocery store down the street. Just keep walking. Oh, I don't want to walk so far. I'm like, well, I didn't hire you. I don't know who you are. Get the F off my property. And I basically had to stare him down until he got off my property. Okay. That's not me. I don't usually confront people that way. But this guy was clearly invading my space and wanting something from me. What he wanted was either for us to invite him into the house or to put him in the car and drive him somewhere. We weren't going to do either of those things. So this is where you have to be rude in order to protect yourself. And by rude, I mean loud, scream, yell, help, I need help, this person's harassing me, hang up the phone, tell them to get the H off your porch, whatever you need to do. Okay, the approaches, we talked a little bit about this. They're all over the place in terms of how they'll approach you. US mail, you're going to get sweepstakes offers, credit card offers, all kinds of crazy stuff in your mail. Shred it all. Phone, anyone calling you that you didn't invite to call you, don't talk to them. Caller ID can be deceptive because it can read things that are not accurate. They could spoof numbers and caller ID that says US government or US bank or Internal Revenue Service, whatever the case might be. Don't trust your caller ID. If you can have an answering service on your phone or get an answering machine, screen your calls. If you pick up and they're on the line and they're a scammer, you're going to know it right away. There's usually a 1-second delay on there. Okay. And they usually mangle your name. Sometimes you could hear a lot of bustling activity in the background. Sometimes you can pick up a foreign accent, not all the time. Hang up, don't engage, don't talk to them. You know right away it's a scam by those reasons. So just hang up on them. Okay. I saw a photo from inside one of these boiler rooms when all they're doing all day is calling people. What they have is a bunch of burner phones. Those are like disposable cell phones. They've got dozens of them lined up, and they're just calling all day long. And just imagine if they make 100 calls, they hit on one person that day, that's enough to keep them in business. Okay, so don't talk to them. The longer you talk to them, the more they're tracking that you're somebody willing to talk to them. So don't make fun of them. Don't chat them up. Don't embarrass them. Whatever you want to do, just hang up the phone. Okay. Front door. We live on a busy street. That's why we have the Ring doorbell. That guy coming into my driveway wasn't unusual. It happens all the time. Again, there's no reason someone should be coming to your front door uninvited. So tell them if they're knocking on your door, I can see you, I'm watching you, get off my porch, get out my yard, go to the sidewalk. Oftentimes it'll be a young lady that's working with a guy who will come to your door saying she's in some sort of distress. Tell her, I want to see you on the sidewalk, wait there, I'll call 911. They will not wait there. They'll go away. I can guarantee it. They're trying to get access into your house. They're trying to come into your house with an offer of some great deal or some sort of distress, some sort of problem. Don't let them into your house. Okay. Public places, we talked to this a little bit, but public parking lots anymore, countywide, nationwide, vagrancies, the rule of the day, criminal behavior is the rule of the day. And they're sneaky and they hide. So if you have any concern about a public parking spot lot, especially if you're a woman with groceries, whatever the case might be, make sure you ask for help going out to your car. Have someone from the grocery store escort you. That means you're probably going to need to go there during the busier times. Grocery stores anymore are pretty thinly staffed outside of regular hours. That means you should be shopping during times where someone can go out to the car with you. And computer websites and email, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but yes, constantly you're going to be bombarded, your email, with unsolicited emails saying there's a problem with your bank account. You've won a sweepstakes. Hey, click on this. Oftentimes, a friend of yours' email can be hacked. So you can get an email from a friend that says, hey, click on this. It's hilarious. Don't click on an attachment on your email unless you've asked for that. Okay. Do not click on it because that can put what's known as spyware or malware on your computer. Like I was saying, the more often we engage the crooks when they approach us, the more often they're going to come back to us, the more likely you're going to be to become victims. Learn how to say no without asking permission. Do not ask permission to hang up the phone. Do not ask permission for someone to get off your porch. Don't say pretty please. Be aggressive, be loud, be rude if you need to, be demanding. Don't stop, okay? Protect yourself. It's okay to speak rudely to a crook. Do not apologize to them. Stop before you act out of fear, worry, or urgency, and then call a trusted friend or neighbor for guidance. On our street, we have close neighbors to the left, across the street, to the right, and behind. We all know each other. We're not best friends. We all know each other, and we alert each other to activity in the neighborhood. So if someone's going to door, all four of us are going to know it once one of us gets approached, okay? That's the way to handle it. So recent examples that we've experienced for scams and fraud, one of them is what's known as a money mule scam. This is a scam where someone will approach you by email, on the phone, or even in a public place and say, hey, I've got money for you. I just need a bank account to deposit it in. And then they're going to take that money and deposit it into another bank account. This is banking fraud. If you get caught in this, we did have a woman get caught in this. So never, ever respond or talk to someone who says, I've got money for you to put into your bank account. Okay. It sounds crazy, but it does happen and people become victimized of that. There's another one known as the grandchild in trouble scam. It's originated years ago prior to COVID. During COVID, COVID was part of the story. In this version of the scam, a crook will call a senior pretending to be a grandchild or other young relative. The crook will say, it's me, I need help from you, grandma, grandpa, I'm sick in the hospital with COVID. I cannot be treated or given medication unless you send money to me. Of course, there's no sick grandchild or young relative, but the crook is hoping that grandma, grandpa will be frightened enough that they will wire money or give out credit card info on the phone. And the key on this scam, again, this is you talking to someone who's calling you out of some sort of urgency. There's trouble, right? And they can solve the trouble for you if you just send money. And this scam is where they'll say, grandma, grandpa, and you'll give up the name. You'll say, oh, Joey, is that you? Susan, is that you? And then the scam begins because they're going to say, yeah, it's Joey. Yeah, it's Susan. I'm in trouble. Okay. So this is going to get trickier over time because they're going to have what are known as AI produced voices. They're going to have voices that sound like your grandchild or grandson. They're going to find that voice by some sort of posting that person's done on social media. So this is where it's going to be very difficult. Just this morning on a radio show, it was a joke, but I heard an AI produced voice of President Biden saying all these comedy routine things. Sounded just like him. It was AI. And by AI, I mean artificial intelligence. So you've got to be very careful with this. And you've got to have reliable numbers for family members and things where you can call and verify. Okay, that's what you need to do. Don't trust anyone calling you, again, that's saying there's a problem, here's how to solve it. There's a great thing that's happened, money or investments or some sort of sweepstakes winnings, and here's how you claim it. That's a sure sign of a scam. Any unsolicited phone, text, email, or U.S. mail requests for charitable donations. There's a lot of fraudulent charitable organizations out there. You can call the Secretary of State's office here in Washington at that number or go on their website. They will confirm who is a registered charitable organization in the state of Washington. If they're reputable, they would have registered. Registering means the state of Washington has verified that at least 70 cents of every dollar goes to their cause, okay? If they're not willing to be registered, it probably means that maybe a penny, if anything, is going to the cause The rest of it is going to the fundraiser. So check those out. I always say give locally every year. Give to a different local organization every year or the same every year. Locally, though, where you can actually go visit what they're doing. The Humane Society, Northwest Trek, Domestic Violence Shelter, where you could actually go and visit and see what the work is that they're doing. Okay, that's what you want to do. Sweetheart scams often occur on the computer through pop-up malware, email contacts, online dating sites. Scammers often portray themselves as overseas royalty, U.S. military personnel, oil field workers, or flight attendants. In these sweetheart scams, victims become convinced that the scammers truly love them. I've had senior women fall prey to these. Generally, with the women, it's a guy claiming to be an oil field worker or a U.S. military guy. With the guys, it's often a flight attendant or a model or a singer. These are all scams. They generally pull photos online that are available to anyone and start communicating with a person claiming they're a military guy. They'll get a photo of a guy in a uniform. They'll have a photo of a guy out in an oil field. They'll have a beautiful woman in a flight attendant outfit or a swimsuit. And then the scam begins. There's no person on the other end of these scams. It's just some scammer crook organization where they're trying to pull that person into this sweetheart scam, making them believe someone far away is in love with them. And then what typically happens, these are the steps. Number one, they'll build rapport. They'll discuss things in common. Sometimes they'll even put a person on the line, a male voice, a female voice. Generally, it's by email or some sort of text or chat. Gain the trust. The victim and the scammer will share secrets. They build this long-distance relationship. The victim becomes the ideal partner and sees the scammer as the same. Then they start establishing plans for the future. The victim and scammer make plans to be together. A friend of my wife's went through this whole thing where this guy was an oil field worker in Saudi Arabia who wanted to live with her in Bellevue. They were going to get a house together in Bellevue as soon as he could return home. This went on for several weeks. Over time, it became more and more apparent that he was a scammer because he would start asking her for money. Oh, I need money for my visa. Oh, I need money to get out of my oil field contract. Oh, I need money to extend my stay here in Saudi Arabia while I'm waiting to get out of my contract, and on and on and on. So we knew it was going to develop. She wouldn't believe us, but that's how it developed, because the financial assistance is the payoff. Usually it's in context of a complex situation that requires the victim to provide money to the scammer to resolve a legal issue so that the scammer can travel to meet the victim. So these happen commonly. These used to happen mostly in person. Now they just typically happen over the computer. A word about walk cares. Walk cares is the new Long-Term Care Trust Act payroll deduction that started July of 2023 for active workers, people that are actively employed. People that are already retired or on disability and not working are not part of the Walk Cares Fund. So if anyone's contacting you saying you can pay into the Walk Cares Fund to fund your long-term care needs, do not fall prey to that. It's a scam. There are no signups or buy-ins for the program. The payroll deduction for workers is a state requirement of their employers, okay? So you cannot buy into it or pay into it. When it started to come for me back July of last year, it was automatically taken from my check. I didn't have to do anything. It just happened from my employer. Okay, so we're going to finish by talking about some risks that we can encounter online for those of you who work on your computers. Electronic transactions and information gathering are now the norm and will only become more sophisticated in the future because of artificial intelligence, okay? So right now with artificial intelligence, people are having artificial intelligence write newspaper articles, write college papers, write research papers. The funny thing is, the artificial intelligence is only as good as the information it's gathering. So it's a gathering process. So it's looking at all the information that's available on all the data areas worldwide that are electronic in some way, and it's building information from that. But it's also creating fraudulent information in some cases. So stay attuned to that because we're not sure how that's going to develop going forward. Any internet connection that leaves the user at risk of scams and fraud, whether on home and computer, tablet, laptop, or phone, anytime you're signed into the internet, if you're looking up political sites online, economic sites, you're on a social media sites, you're vulnerable to being a victim of scam or fraud online. There's all kinds of things that happen online: spoofing, spamming, cloning, account hacking, redirecting, spyware, malware, keystroke tracking, camera hijacking. Plus, there's phishing, fake identities, fake websites, cookies, fraudulent links, all kinds of risks when you're on your computer. Okay. So, what we always tell people, if you have a home computer, as many of us still do, make sure you talk to a computer consulting agency like the Geek Squad at Best Buy. You might have a friend or family member that you trust that knows a lot about computer security. You have to have what are known as firewalls around your computer systems to avoid some of these influences coming onto your computer. You need to have junk screening on your email so scam emails don't come through easily. We have really good firewalls and protections on our county computers. Even so, sometimes we get a random email that's a scam email that comes through. Okay. So, very quickly, let's talk about some of these terms. This is really more for a guide for you than to actually me go through it line by line. Spoofing is when it looks like a legitimate email address or web page, and it's one that someone's created to trick you. Okay. Spam is when you get email that's coming through that you didn't ask for. It's just being blasted out to you. It's like junk mail that you get in the US mail. Cloning is when a phone number can be copied to display on a phone. So this is why I was talking about. It's also known as spoofing. Cloning is when they could use a different number than the one they're calling from to fool you on your caller ID. Account hacking, that's when anyone gets into your system and starts sending email out or hacks your social media account. Hacking happened to my sister with her Facebook account where someone got on there on the messaging service. And this is when Taylor Swift was in town last year and started to blast out that my sister had 4 tickets to Taylor Swift for $1,000. And to respond to her, a couple of people did respond, but the person had already hacked my sister's account. So my sister never got the responses. One person actually wired money to this hacker. Okay, so stuff like that can happen. So if you get anything unusual like that, make sure you contact that person directly, preferably by phone, not at a number they're showing, at the number you know to be the good one. Redirecting, that's when a website sends you to a scam site. Spyware is where something is watching your computer and the keystrokes you're making on it and your screen. Malware is something that can get on your computer that can interfere with the operations on it or sometimes steal data. Keyloggers are the same thing, where the keylogger is following your keystrokes and trying to figure out bank account numbers and things from that. Cookies are those things that exist on your computer to make it easier for you to navigate. So a cookie is something that when you start even looking at uh, a website, it'll start giving you information on there from when you visited the website before. Camera hijacking, this is when someone takes control of the camera that you can use on your computer for communications. Phishing, this is when someone's trying to get an answer from you in a fraudulent way by email. Fake identities, similar to that, okay? And then there's fraudulent links, malicious pop-ups, fake update requests, online extortion. There's been these terrible situations with young people, especially with young men, typically teenagers, where they fall into these sweetheart scams. They think they're communicating with a girl that might be interested in them. And then the girl asks them to send nude photos or something like that. And then they start blackmailing that person saying, you got to send us $1,000 a month or we're going to reveal these photos. Okay. So again, a lot of young people have fallen prey to these scams in some terrible circumstances. This is where you want to have that dialogue with the whole family about safety on the computer, okay? Because anybody can masquerade as anyone on the computer. Websites that look legitimate can be fake, someone communicating with you through text messages. It might not even be an actual live person on the other end of that communication. It could be what is known as a bot, okay? BOT, short for robot. So just think of sometimes like when I go contact my car dealer to get servicing on my vehicle, there's a little chat that pops up in the corner. It looks like a woman wearing a headset. Hey, how can I help you? That's not a real person, okay? That's a bot. It's just a response the computer's making when I go onto the service scheduling site that's going to take my service request to schedule an appointment. But it's not somebody that's actually monitoring that at 1 in the morning, okay? It's just a bot. This is very hard for seniors to understand. A lot of the communication that happens on your computer is automatic and computer generated. It's no different than a message when you call your bank and it says, welcome to US Bank, hold the line. That's not someone actually saying that, it's a recording. It's the same way on your computer. A lot of it is just generated without a live person behind it. So how do you avoid online scams and fraud? Strong passwords. Do not enter personal information on unfamiliar websites. Always be suspicious of anything that's coming on email or a pop-up that says, there's a problem, here's how you solve it. We had one of these come through that looked like it was coming from our streaming company that said, here we are, your payment did not go through. Please click here to make your payment. It was a scam. It looked like it was legit. It was a scam, okay? Secure internet connection, antivirus and malware programs on your computer, prevention programs. Do not click on links in emails. Be careful about ever downloading something from a website. Just don't do it. View it, get the information that way. Don't download it. You can view it and print it even. Downloading it means you're taking it from the view onto your computer storage, okay? And a lot of bad things can happen after that. Be careful about purchasing items through a social media site. I gave that example of my sister's Facebook Messenger and how that was a scam. Be careful about what you say online. Be extra cautious about who you meet online. Designate one person you trust with the key to your data. So this is really advisable about what you say, what you post, any family photos and things that you post on there, anybody can steal those, okay? And people will tell me, well, it's limited to my Facebook friends or people who I give permission. It doesn't matter. Friends have friends, right? People can take screenshots. You can take screenshots of things you post, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case might be. Once somebody has that screenshot, all kinds of crazy things can happen with that. And I was told this years ago. I worked for an online university years ago as an instructor, and we had our instructor page that gave kind of a description of who we were. And I remember they allowed you to post a photo on that. So I put on my suit and tie and posted a photo. This was years ago. The information tech guy there said, I wouldn't post your photo on there, just leave it blank. I said, why? He said, anybody can capture that photo and do anything they want with it. And believe me, he said, if you fail one of your students, they're going to grab that photo off of there and put it in some crazy kind of photo developed imagery that you might not like. And this was years ago. So the same holds true today. This is why, especially for those younger people in your family, be careful how much they post on there, how many photos they put on there. I know it's big among the younger people to post a lot of personal photos and things, but those photos are in the public realm and they're going to circulate forever. So be thoughtful about that. Okay. How to recover if you're a victim. The easiest thing you can do is have a list of all your open bank, credit, and retail accounts in a safe place at home. So I know everything that's in my wallet, okay? So if I lose my wallet, I need to go home at the cabinet, start calling all the bank account cards and credit cards that I have in my wallet to cancel them because I've lost my wallet. Easy for me to do because I have a complete inventory, okay? That's one way, if you're a victim, you can easily recover. If a fraudulent charge is made on one of your accounts, make a report to the bank and credit card company as soon as possible. Keep notes about who you talk to, what, and when. Use the listed phone numbers on the cards to contact them. So use the US Bank number you have written down, or the number for the local auditor's office, or the police department, whatever the case might be. because the scammers, when they're scamming you, are going to give you a number to call. That's not the real number. So again, this inventory of your wallet or purse is the best thing you can do. You'll want to call the local police non-emergency number to make a report, obtain a case number if your purse is stolen, if someone's used a credit card in your name, if someone's hacked into your checking account, whatever the case might be. Typically, the bank or credit card company is going to tell you you have to make a report to the non-emergency number to get a case number. That case number is how you're going to prove that you didn't make those purchases or do those transactions. Okay, that's going to hold you harmless of any fees or draws that happen on your account because it wasn't you. You're always going to check your credit reports for free at annualcreditreport.com. Shred your documents that have identifying information on them. Hire a reputable computer or phone report business to look at your computer or phone if it's acting goofy and if you're getting a lot of unsolicited messages on there. And learn from your experience to avoid being a victim in the future, okay? It's much easier to avoid scams or fraud than it is to recover from them. And it's going to be very frustrating because the person who scammed you is likely never going to be brought to justice. They probably don't even live within this country. They might not even live in this Western hemisphere. They could be thousands of miles away, halfway around the world, and they scammed you, okay? But you still have to take the steps, and you will be held harmless if you do the proper steps. If you've willfully handed over money to a scammer, you're going to be out of that money. You're not going to get it back from them. Okay. So if you take money out of your bank account and go give it to some crook, or you wire it to them at Western Union, you're going to be out of luck. You're going to just lose that money. But you still need to report it because they do try to develop patterns to avoid scams happening in the future. It helps the police department to know the scams that are happening in their community. Okay, here's the resource page. You can always report some sort of scam or fraudulent activity that's attempted to engage you. You can call us. You'll typically get sent to me because I like to keep track of them. COVID questions, vaccine availability, COVID circulating again. Please go to the websites for coronavirus.gov or the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. We talked about the charitable organizations and how you can verify those to the Secretary of State's office. You can get more information about WACARE's Long-Term Care Trust Act. And for any information you need about scams, fraud, program services, and public events for seniors, for all kinds of different things like the Alzheimer's Conference, Fall Prevention Awareness Day, Powerful Tools for Caregivers, all of that, you can call our office and get that information as well. So that's the conclusion of the presentation. I would say that on any given day, you're going to be approached as part of a scam or fraud through the mail, email, phone, whatever the case might be. Be ready and remember, recognize it's either someone saying, here's a problem, here's how you solve it, or here's this great thing that happened, here's how you claim the winnings. That's the key. Always be on the lookout for that. Once you know how the structure is, it doesn't matter the different stories they tell you. Recognize the structure and you'll not be scammed, okay? All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay, great. So the this talk and previous sessions are posted at the East Pierce Fire and Rescue site under events, right? Oh, the link is in the chat if anybody's listening in on, and we'll be doing these going forward for September, October, November as well. And those will be in there as well. And these talks happen on the third Tuesday, right? Third Tuesday of the month. They're always available on streaming, and they're also available live in person. But make sure you check the website to see whether we're here or whether we're up in Bonnie Lake at the other station. So, all right, thank you very much.